Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to do a cake, and essentially I'm going to make a Gâteau Nantais. And the reason I'm doing this is that there's a couple of publications that, are highfalutin publications, and over the last little while, food publications, magazines, and over the last little while they've run a couple of stories about their take on this cake. And every time I saw it, it's like, you've overcomplicated something that is a very simplistic cake. And what I thought I would do is I would go back to, let me get the butter off my fingers. I'd go back to some of my French cookbooks, early French cookbooks, and pull out what I would consider more traditional Gâteau Nantais, which led me into a spiral of research that I haven't fully completed at this point. So I've got butter in here. I'm using the whisk. It's all caught inside the whisk at this point. So what I'm going to do is add in, this is some superfine sugar. It's often called fruit sugar here or dissolving sugar. And then I've got some vanilla sugar, which is just sugar that I've put vanilla pods in and let it steep. That sugar gives you a real hit of vanilla. If you don't have vanilla sugar, just tip in a little bit of vanilla extract. Really simple to do. Now, that brings me back to these books. So I thought I'd go in and I'd look at all my French cookbooks. Only one of my early French cookbooks has a Gâteau Nantais. None of the others do, and there's a whole pile of them. I just didn't bring them out because they don't have a recipe in them. This cookbook, however, this is La Cuisinière Bourgeoise. 1759 is when this was published, printed. Doesn't have a Gâteau Nantais, but it has an almond cake, which is essentially what we're making. And all of the proportions are pretty much the same as what we're doing today, except it uses whole eggs and some egg yolks. But there's no rum. It's just an almond cake. So essentially this, but no rum, which is what makes a contemporary Gâteau Nantais a Gâteau Nantais. This is Cuisinière Provinciale. This copy was published in 1910. It is like the 7th or 8th printing. It has Gâteau Nantais, but no rum, no almond, no vanilla, and it uses orange blossom water, which tells me that even though this is a 1910 cookbook, the recipe that's in here for Gâteau Nantais is prior to 1850 and even earlier than that, because commercially vanilla doesn't really see widespread use until post 1850. Which led me down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out whether the origin story for Gâteau Nantais holds water at all. The idea is that it's from a town or a city in France, port city, where goods were coming in and out all the time, especially goods from the West Indies, and they would bring in rum. And this is rum from the French islands, the French Caribbean, spelled with an H, often called rum agricole, completely different than English or Spanish rums. And so that rum was put into the cake and called Gâteau Nantais after the town, the city, whatever you want to call it. Last egg. And so that story about the bakers incorporating the rum that's coming in from the West Indies is the one that I had always heard and the one that I sort of, hung my hat on. Now I'm not so sure. I know this part of my brain knows that most food origin stories or origin mythologies are not true. This is ground almond, finely ground almond, so in that goes. Most origin stories really are just a beautiful sort of mythology that people can talk about, and humans love stories. So I need to do a lot more research about this recipe and find a wider variety of early French cooking books to kind of figure out what is truth and what is reality. I know that for a lot of recipes that I've researched in the past, there were two recipes that were a little bit different and they competed along the way, and then one sort of fell by the wayside. Certainly the one with the orange blossom water fell by the wayside. It went out of favor. People didn't like it as much. Maybe the rum cake takes over at a certain point. Maybe the rum cake is a complete fabrication from the 1970s. Who knows? So next in is just regular old flour. So in goes the flour, and next, a splash of rum. And so I used this St. James rum. It's from Martinique. You could have used rum Barbancourt. That's from Haiti. It differs from English and Spanish rums in that the French rum, they do fresh pressed cane juice, ferment that, and then distill it. Whereas the English and the Spanish take molasses, which is from the other end of sugar production, and use that waste ingredient as the base for their rum. This gives a completely different flavor. The Portuguese also do the same process as the French did. And so if you look at cachaça from Brazil, it is essentially rum agricole, or a French rum, except made by the Portuguese in Brazil. And I'm going to get in trouble for saying that because there are people who just argue to the death that it's different. Anyway, cake tin buttered with a parchment disc in the bottom. And in goes our cake. And even after, telling you all that about the rum, use whatever brown spirit you have on hand. Whiskey would be great, brandy, cognac, any of the brown spirits would be fantastic in this. Use what you've got, use what you like, make your own tradition. So, into the oven. 350 degrees, and I'll come back and look at it at about a half an hour, but I think it'll take longer. Okay, still hot from the oven. We're going to flip it out. Oh, I left part of it in the pan. That's no good. I'll just turn it around. Okay, so I had really greased the inside of this pan, but as you can see, some of the cake got left inside. I did go around it with a knife. I guess I just didn't get it. No, even if I had, even when I did go around it with a knife, I wasn't going to get that out. Okay, so it's stuck. Not a big deal. It happens. So I've got a little more rum. The everything I've read is leave the cake upside down and then sprinkle a little rum over the top while it's still warm. About that much. Okay, so I probably could have used a smaller diameter pan to give a bit more loft. I didn't. You could at home if you wanted to. Go right ahead. And for all of my friends out there who go to great pains to admonish me for not doing anything by weight, this recipe is in weight. So if you love to use a scale, get your scale out and make this. Now, that's icing sugar, powdered sugar, confectioner's sugar, whatever you want to call it. A little bit more rum. I'm going to measure very carefully. And we'll give that a stir. And we'll glaze the top. Now, some of that will run down the side, and some of it will soak in. Some of it will soak in from underneath as well. I'm going to stick this in the fridge because we're not eating it until tomorrow. It's actually best eaten tomorrow. Okay.
Hoorah, it's time for dessert. Hey, friends. Hey, Glen.
So,
Ready. Don't look at this side.
Don't look at this side. I did everything that you're supposed to do. It was greased. There was a parchment paper disc in the bottom. I went around it with a knife.
Just, that's what happened.
Just sometimes it's going to happen.
So that's really dense, but not tough. Does that make sense?
No. Yes. That's great.
It's like an orangey kind of lemon. What is in that?
Rum, agricole, with an H.
Just room?
Yep.
Huh, why is I thought there was orange in it? I know.
Oh, I've been talking about this. So I've been talking about this one. This has the recipe in this cookbook has a cake by the same name,
Oh, so you're saying powers
Gâteau-
of suggestion?
Gâteau Nantais, and it has no rum, no almond, but an orange flavoring. And I will eventually make it because it sounds great. This is, well, that piece didn't last very long, did it?
No, it's pretty good. It's interesting because now did the rum go over it at the end?
There's rum in it before you bake it. There's rum sprinkled on it when it comes out of the oven hot. And then there's a rum and sugar glaze that goes on it once it's cooled. And then it sits to all soak together to make something that's absolutely wonderful. Who cares what the origin story is? Really, what it comes down to is, at this point, I don't care what the origin story is. That's a great cake.
I agree.
But I'm still going to dig for the origin story because I need to figure it out.
Well,
Okay.
the story's a story, right?
Yeah,
It changes every time you tell it.
mythology. Okay, yeah, give this cake a try.
We approve.
We approve. It's worth pulling your scale out for. Definitely.
Ooh, there's a...
Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.